Bonjour à tous et à toutes. Merci de vous joindre à nous pour cette conférence de presse. Nous serons ravis de prendre vos questions, mais nous sommes plusieurs à vouloir dire quelques mots sur la tenue de notre journée aujourd'hui. Ce forum national sur l'antisémitisme a eu lieu ici à Ottawa aujourd'hui avec à peu près 250 personnes. C'était un énorme succès. Nous avons pu échanger, nous avons pu aussi, en tant que gouvernement fédéral, nous engager vers des actions et des réalisations très concrètes pour faire avancer la sécurité des Canadiens et des Canadiennes. Thank you for joining us this evening for our press conference following what was a very successful day here in Ottawa for the first national forum on combating anti-Semitism in person. We have held a previous anti-Semitism summit a few years ago during the pandemic, and today was to continue that work in light of the increase in anti-Semitism and in particular in anti-Semitic violence across Canada. As I had mentioned several times over the course of the day, the statistics are alarming. Indeed, an increase over the last 10 years of anti-Semitic hate against Jewish Canadians by 322%. I know that there are many things that need to be said today, but I would like to talk about what this forum was about, and that was taking action. Concrete action in order to advance the fight, the combat against anti-Semitism right across the country. And I'm joined today by my colleague, the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada, Arif Virani, who co-hosted today's national forum with me. I'm joined as well by my colleague, Minister Yara Sachs, to my immediate left, as well as Deputy Commissioner Brian Larkin, Deputy Commissioner of the RCMP. I'm also joined by Minister Moroz of Manitoba, Solicitor General for Ontario, Minister Kersner, as well as the Chief of Toronto Police, Chief Demkew. Thank you for joining us for this press conference, and very briefly, I will outline the commitments that the federal government has taken today, and that will be followed by remarks by my colleagues from different provinces. Firstly, the Canadian government committed today to additional funding for the training of police. The training of police officers and hate crime units right across the country in order to ensure that we can better identify and better target and hopefully prevent anti-Semitic violence, but also better recognize once it does happen so that we can see through the numbers what anti-Semitism looks like in Canada and be able to report back to Canadians on it. We have also committed to evaluating, along with our partners at the provincial and territorial level, looking at legislative amendments to the criminal code with respect to intimidation around our community centers, around our schools, and places of worship. We've also committed to looking with our partners at the provincial and territorial level at potential legislative amendments in respect of terror symbols, symbols of hate that we know Canadians no longer want to see in this country. Finally, we've also put money on the table in order to ensure that our community organizations, that do the work on the ground, are able to support the Jewish community, but are also able to better provide security. And to that end, we had excellent meetings today with a number of organizations who are looking to partner with our government. Thank you again for your attention, and it is my privilege to pass the microphone over to the Solicitor General of Ontario, Mr. Michael Kersner.
Thank you, Minister Bendayan, and thank you, Minister Virani, Minister Sachs. Pleasure to be with my colleague from Manitoba. Thank you, Chief Demkew and Deputy Chief Larkins, for being here today. Erwin Kotler summed it up absolutely correctly, that anti-Semitism has no moral equivalency. Today's summit is very important. It addresses questions of denialism and normalizing the goalie posts of what might be construed as being an acceptable behavior. no act of anti-Semitism is acceptable. And under the leadership of Premier Ford, the province of Ontario will continue to execute strategies at the provincial level to combat anti-Semitism. And that includes, as we have already done, move forward with the Anti-Hate Prevention and Security Grant, which provided money to houses of worship so that they can improve their houses of worship with the physical infrastructures they need to keep those places of prayer safe. We moved forward with mandatory Holocaust education. And we've moved forward with putting many more boots on the ground. Just in the last few years, we've doubled the number of police recruits coming through the Ontario Police College from slightly over 1,000 to now 2,100 on an annual basis. And that means in Toronto alone, 360 more people will wear the Toronto Police uniform to help keep Toronto safe. The Government of Ontario will continue to work with its policing partners, with municipal police services, with the OPP and First Nations police services to make sure that hate crime awareness and training takes place both at the Ontario Police College, but also through the leadership of each individual police service, that continues as well. Anti-Semitism and the rise of anti-Semitism is very personal to me. It's personal to all Canadians. And when Premier Ford talks about protecting Ontario, it's also about standing up for our inherent rights to wake up our kids in the morning and make sure that they can go to school safely. It means that we should have the right to go to work and to be educated in our colleges and universities safely, that we should be able to shop and we should be able to pray safely. The fulfillment of this inherent right to live safely in our own homes and communities will always be a priority by our government led by Premier Ford. Today's discussions are very important, and I'm proud to be here as a representative of the Ontario government to send a message across Canada that the values that unite us of being a warm, tolerant society, that there is place for everyone to belong on the quilt, on the magic tapestry of Canada. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup. Je passerai maintenant la parole au ministre Moroz du Manitoba, suivi peut-être des représentants des forces de l'ordre, la GRC ou le chef de la police de Toronto. Mais d'abord et avant tout, Monsieur le ministre, à vous.
Thank you so much. I want to begin by thanking our federal colleagues for putting this event together today. It's an extraordinary event, and it's absolutely humbling to be here on behalf of the province of Manitoba. There are times in our lives where our own privilege becomes apparent to us. And I have to confess that prior to October 7th, I didn't realize exactly how privileged I was. As a non-Jewish member of the community in River Heights, which is the constituency I represent, I didn't truly understand that place of privilege, how easy my own life had been. I was elected to office on October 3rd, 2023. 4 days later, Hamas brutally attacks Israel, and my privilege becomes apparent. I'm very proud that our government, under the leadership of Wab Kinew, has stepped up and brought into place a number of key elements that will work to combat anti-Semitism. There's much more work for us to do, but I'm very pleased that our government has stepped up with mandatory Holocaust education in our educational system. I think that's pivotal. We're looking at ways to extend that as well, but to have that in place is, I think, an important first step. Additionally, we've taken the decision to move on a designated hate crimes prosecutor. One of the first provinces to do that. And we're very excited about the opportunities that we think that presents us in terms of truly combating anti-Semitism. Came today in the hopes of hearing more about funding to support frontline police work, to make sure we can gather the evidence that we need to convict hate crimes, and to support officers in terms of understanding what is a hate crime and what isn't a hate crime, and allowing them to move forward. We heard that today, and that's excellent. Additionally, we're anxious to hear about moves around the displaying of hate symbols. We heard that as well today. So it was really gratifying to have the room be so unified in support of some of the key moves that we can make. There's so much more work to do, but I think today's work was excellent, and I look forward to continuing to work together over time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Moroz, and thank you to all of the colleagues and representatives standing with me at this press conference. I guess one thing that I failed to mention and that I recognize on the basis of the Minister's remarks just now is that over half of the speakers that we heard from today were not of the Jewish faith. They were allies in the struggle that we are combating here today, and I think that that's an important message to Canadians, that the security and the safety of all Canadians is everybody's business, and we certainly saw that reflected in the room. The unity that we see right across Canada in these times of difficulty as we deal with threats to our economy, but also threats to our national independence, are very much felt on the ground. And the unity that I felt today was beautiful. And the unity that I feel right across the country in these last weeks, I've never seen before. Canadians are coming together. They're coming together in order to ensure each other's safety, and they're coming together in order to defend the values that we hold dear as Canadians. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Okay, so we can start for media only the questions. On va commencer pour seulement les médias dans la salle, la période des questions. Une question de suivi, one question, one follow-up question. Okay, go in one, go in twice.
I have a question on behalf of CJN, and I'll just pull up the wording for you. CJN is representing the media, and they all are at the shop. It's a small shop. I think we could do them the honor of having one. They've given me one question, and you can see it came from Ellen Bresner, so there's no debate. The question is about whether or not they're going to allow the Al-Quds Paradise.
Can you be a little bit more specific whether or not who is going to allow?
Whether or not the government is going to allow Al-Quds Paradise to continue.
We are assessing the work that is done across the country. I know that at the moment HUT is currently being assessed. We have moved forward on a number of listings that are of importance to the Jewish community, and I'd be happy to take that offline with Ms. Besner if she would like. Thank you for your question.
Okay, ce qui met fin à la période de questions. That's over. Thank you.